So we have a lot of creators on this platform that cover Dragon Ball fan manga, and I am not one of them. And I never wanted to step on anybody's shoes whatsoever when it comes to content on this platform. If somebody does something and that's what they're known for and they do it better than me, then more power to them. They can have it, right? I'm usually not the kind of guy who covers fan manga at all, but Blackscape, who seems to be the leader of the fan manga movement, was like, no, you should cover it and give these fan manga artists and writers some spotlight. So I thought about it for a little bit and I said, okay, fine, I'll do a couple of fan manga reviews. I'm not going to do a lot of them because it's just not my specialty. It's not my forte. It's not what I do here on Geekdom 101. So I wanted to talk about Malik Torihane's brand new definitive reboot of Dragon Ball New Age. Dragon Ball New Age has been around for a long time, but now in 2019, Malik has gone back and redone everything from scratch with better art, better story, better pacing, and it's a remastered, rewrite, refresh version of Dragon Ball New Age. So forget the old version, this is the new one. And if you're one of those people who didn't really like Dragon Ball Super too much, or you want a true sequel to GT, Dragon Ball New Age may satisfy that appetite. Let's get to it after this. Hey folks, if you like what I'm putting out here on Geekdom 101 and want to hear my thoughts on other aspects of geek culture like video games, TV shows, movies, pro wrestling, and more, check out my second channel, World of Geekdom. I will leave a link down below for you to check that out. I thank you and I hope you enjoy it. Now, the definitive edition of Dragon Ball New Age starts everything from scratch, so forget about everything you've read in the past. It's all redone. There are some elements that Torihane brought back, but it's a new story. This begins 3 years after Goku defeated the Shadow Dragons at the end of Dragon Ball GT, and not the 100-year time skip. It's before the 100-year time skip, 3 years after the defeat of Omega Shenron in a parallel universe, and one that Torihane has created for himself, just in case someday they actually do a continuation of GT. This can still exist on its own, but it is a sequel to GT. However, Torihane as an artist and a storyteller is without question heavily influenced by Toriyama himself, so there are probably more Toriyama elements in Dragon Ball New Age than any other Dragon Ball fan manga that's based off of GT, even more so than what they actually did on GT. And for a long time, New Age had a huge fan base. So now it's time to start over and make it better. Let's get right into it here as we begin our story with two unknown mysterious people heading towards Earth in space pods, which looks like the beginning of Phantom Menace, but not quite the same. No trade route disputes in this story. This is Chapter 1 of Dragon Ball New Age, The Arrival, Peace Shattered by a Forgotten Past. We then move to Earth and they quickly introduce Mr. Satan as being the same old Mr. Satan, and then we cut to Goten going on a date. So Malik has chosen to keep the Goten is a horny player aspect of his character intact for this, but of course it is a sequel to GT, so you don't want to make too many crazy changes. So he's on a date with this random girl who's never been to a movie theater, which means, damn, she must have had a pretty sheltered life. And we are introduced to a older teenage version of Pan who is now going to Orange Star High School just like her father did in DBZ. And we also see Trunks, who is still the president of Capsule Corp, having to handle that executive business. So Malik pretty much spends the first part of this chapter reintroducing the characters that are going to be players in this saga of the new Dragon Ball New Age. We also find out that Dende, the god of Earth, is not currently on Earth. Mr. Popo talks about how he went to New Namek to reunite with his people for some sort of godly vacation or something. I don't know. But Piccolo is seen there living amongst the gods like he did back in the day. But we haven't been reintroduced to our main guys. Of course, that time is now as we cut to the Kaioshin realm and we see Goku, Gohan, and Oob training on the Kaioshin realm on the Supreme Kai planet. So if you are a fan of Gohan not being a scholar and at least trying to be a fighter, you're going to get it here because he's training with Goku just like many people thought he would never do again after Super. And the way Gohan was portrayed there for the majority of Super very inconsistently, here Malik chooses to go ahead and say, you know what, let's make Gohan important. And it looks like he may be doing that. We'll see what happens in the future, but it seems that may be the course that he's going with. And we also have an interesting line by Goku where he says he may not be able to become a god on his own yet, but he knows there are things beyond Super Saiyan 4. It's like they're teasing the Dragon Ball Super God forms early in Malik's version of the story, therefore making kind of the two different stories, GT and Super, in a way merge, not so much with story, but more so in content, more so in transformation. So the power of a god being used by a mortal is still something that appears to be brought into New Age, a concept from Super that's being brought into this GT sequel. So that should get a lot of people excited, because even if you don't like Super, most people love God Ki and the God form. So we may see something like that in this version, or something totally different. That's the beautiful thing about fan manga, is you can go in different directions and not really be bound by the rules of Shueisha, Toei, and Shonen Jump. You can do whatever the hell you want. And this is for the fans, so why not go there? Now, I have to criticize this. Goku talks about God Ki, and just the fact that Goku is there confused me. Why is Goku there if GT ended with Goku flying off with the dragon? Why is Goku even there? Where's Piccolo at? And I had to actually reach out to the author, to Malik himself, and he explained that it is a parallel timeline, and it takes into account both Battle of Gods and GT, but they've been altered. The problem is there's no indication of any Battle of Gods, anything, in the promo for this manga or even in the manga itself yet. And to me, that is a criticism. It's a problem, because I had to reach out to the author to get that answer, and a regular reader might not have access to the author when they're reading this at home or online, and it's going to confuse them. And to me, it is a criticism that I have to say, that it is confusing that he's going to take little elements and not really specify which he's taking. So be aware of this as you go into it, that there is some Battle of Gods movie stuff in this story. So I guess the Battle of Gods film did take place during the 10-year time skip before even GT happened in this alternate universe. You know, it was Battle of Gods, no Resurrection F and nothing else in Super, just Battle of Gods, then the end of Z, then GT. So be aware of this. It's something you should know going in, but it's not something that's specified in the manga, and thus I have to critique that. But hopefully when it comes out actually on paperback or the physical copy, there's going to be some kind of note in there or something he could add to explain that to the fans. Now, as I said that, he did get back to me and he said, oh, we're going to write a prequel chapter that explains all that. So there will be a prequel chapter of this coming that explains that. So be aware of that. This is just the beginning here. So I'm very happy that he's going to be including that in the future editions of this New Age reboot, I guess you can call it. So back to the manga, we have this cool action shot of Vegeta. Some of the best Vegeta artwork I've ever seen here from Malik, who, again, he never wants to let Goku slip ahead of him, and he's going to always train to get stronger. So the two pods that were teased at the beginning of this chapter finally land, and it's remarkable as to how similar this intro, this I guess, first chapter is to the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. Mysterious aliens appear with a revelation. It's the same idea. And actually, one of these mysterious invaders or whatever kind of looks like Raditz a bit, and the other one looks like Videl with a scouter. Interesting look for them, but I think there are parallels here with how Malik wants to open up his story in comparison to how Toriyama, I guess, continued his with the Dragon Ball Z part of the manga after the 5-year time skip. This is a 3-year time skip from GT, so there are parallels there. And as expected with their scouters, they're able to determine that there are some very powerful people on Earth, stronger than they had originally thought. And everybody on Earth senses him. But of course, they don't need scouters. But even Giru sensed that there's somebody really strong on Earth. Very similar to DBZ. It's something we've seen before. Vegeta quickly learns that it's not Kakarot, but that this being is very familiar and headed towards his location. And it appears like this mystery man also knows who Prince Vegeta is, and him and his lady are determined to confront him, and that is where the manga chapter comes to an end. So this manga chapter was done just to kind of establish these characters and establish who's back, what's going on, and more. There will be a prequel manga coming out explaining the differences between the regular GT timeline and what happens in this story. So that's something to look forward to. You can read these chapters over on the TaoofDragonBall.com, Derek Padula's website. Chapter 2 is coming very soon. I'll be sure to cover that here. If you want me to cover it, let me know. I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes and what kind of action scenes Malik can draw in Dragon Ball New Age Reborn. Dragon Ball New Age's reboot. So thanks again for watching. If you like this, like it, share it out, and check out Malik on his social media platforms. And thank you. We'll talk to you very soon.